And we are recording this, as you can see. Now, one of the things here too is we want you to feel free to ask questions during the session, especially with these type of topics, especially with reporting being a big topic today. We want you to be able to say, ask a question. We're going to do our best to answer those questions during our time together. However, if we cannot do that, we'll go ahead and add in the questions and respond to you individually if we can. So we'll send you those responses as soon as we can. So just kind of, again, go over what we're going to be going today. We have a big main presentation that I will be handling. It's on tasking and task reporting. We've done a lot of sessions on issues, and we really haven't done anything with tasking as far as task reporting is concerned. So I want to go ahead and use that as a focus today on my particular part of the session, is go over some of the things that I observed, some of the items that you have to watch out for on task and task reporting. And then Patrick has been is going to be joining us to do a reporting session. He's been doing things from the support side for many of you. So now you're going to be able to get some of his expertise here in this session, where he's going to be talking about some of the things that he likes to talk about when he goes through reporting. And then we're going to do about a 15-minute new capabilities, where we're going to introduce some of the new features that are in 14.1. We'll discuss them a little bit, give you an opportunity to ask some questions. If we can't answer those questions, we will defer those to a later time and get the answers back to you. And then have a general question and answer session at the end. Now, again, if that general kind of session kind of dies off, we'll shorten up the session as needed. But just so you can see our faces, if you can't see them already, of course, this is me. I'm a senior product engineer at Issuetrak. I have been here longer than anybody else except the CEO, so I've got the gray hair to prove it. I've worked in development. I've worked with the technical support team. I managed the support team. Over 10 years ago, I created the professional services team. So now we work exclusively on training customers and prospects and working to help solve problems using my experience, which is approaching about 23 years now with Issuetrak. The new one on the team today is Patrick Truskitty. Patrick's not new to us, though. Many of you have worked with him over the years. I believe you're at 15 years now, Patrick.
Yes, sir.
If I'm not mistaken. So he's been with us for 15 years. He's kind of transitioning over to the professional services department. So we're happy to have him aboard to help out with the professional services load and to provide a different perspective on some of the things that have coming from the support team. He's always been one that is not afraid to talk or to respond. So good person to have on your side, and we're happy to have him here.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try to get started with this session today, and I'm going to go ahead and move into my main presentation. So the main presentation today is on task and task reporting. And again, like I said, we've done a lot of sessions on reporting based off issues, but not done that much on tasking. So I'm going to go into our example site today, and I want to go up to home, and I want to give you a start. Many of us are used to going into the issue hub now, and this is our new replacement for the My Issues page for some of you who've been here for a while. And of course, you've always had the two task tabs on here. Now, you may or may not see these, because if you do not have the permission to be assigned to task, then you're not going to see these two tabs. They will not show up. The other thing is, in the hub settings, your senior system administrator may have removed those, because you can turn them off if you need to. They can be turned off right here through a setting. So in that case, sometimes they may not be available because they're not being shown. Usually, as long as the task functionality is enabled, and as long as you have the permission to be assigned tasks, you should see those two tabs. So what do they show you? They're a little bit different than the issue tabs. The reason is when you go in here, you're seeing a task description, a subject, the assigned on, and who the task is assigned to. You'll also see repeating issue numbers. If you go into the open issues list, then usually when you see this, it's going to be one line per issue. Here in the task assignment list, It's not unusual to have more than one task assigned to you. Therefore, you'll see repeating issue numbers. Now, each one of these you see is individual as far as the description is concerned. So therefore, when you click on here, it should go ahead and go directly in here. You'll see that they are indeed some tasks that are available to be completed. There they are. Now, let's go back. Another thing that's a little bit different here, and this is going to be something that Patrick's going to talk about in the second session, is working with the issue hub, is the gear icon that was introduced in the issue hub does not have as many capabilities in the task tabs as it does in other tabs. As an example, if I click the gear icon here, there is no ability for me to add or edit the different columns. There's no ability for me to restrict access. There's no ability for me to clone these. These will be enhancements we hope to add at a certain time in the future, but as of right now, it is a little bit more of a limited view. The other thing to notice here is in other tabs, you have the ability to filter data or sort data. Now you can sort, but you can't filter. So I could go in and sort this data. Doesn't always make sense to do it that way. So it's better to do the issue number. But yes, you can sort it, but you can't go in and filter data. So those things are not available in either the task assignee tab or the task available tab. Now, that's because I was in edit. Now, the other thing I want you to notice is, let's take a look here. Task assignee 14, task available 12. Well, you would think if I happen to be working with tasks that those numbers should usually be the same. However, just like on the dashboard, task assignee means all the tasks you are assigned to. Task available means all tasks that are available to be completed, because some of the tasks that you are assigned to may not be available for you to complete because of dependency order in the task process. Just making sure that you understand what that means. If I go in here into this issue again, 1579, and I look in here, then each of these tasks you see are being completed. Now, if the task process is set up so there's a task order of 9 in here for this one, I can complete it, which means the second one, impact rating, would have task order of 10. Now, if it has a dependency order, then it means 9 and 10 is just where they are in the list. But dependency order will control when I can complete them. So I set this into an order and I make this, let's say, a 9 or 10 just to match it up. Then I hit save, nothing changed. But if I go in here now to this one and I put in a dependency order, and I'll edit it, and we'll make this one a 9. And then I do a save here. The one I put in here is for impact assessment is a 10, says I can't complete that until both of these 9s are completed. This is a task assigned and available. This is a task assigned and not available. So the order is important about controlling when a task can be completed. So make sure that you're going through those as you're setting up your different tasks within Issuetrak. So that's one of the features that you always want to look at, and it's always a big control item because it keeps your processes running in the proper order. I can't add a mailbox until I add someone to Active Directory. I've got to add Active Directory first before I'm going to add the mailbox. Well, of course, everybody knows, well, not everybody, but in most cases, you've got to have one account before the other. So you want to give someone access to a system. Well, they've got to have access to the network, which means they've got to have an Active Directory or an authentication account of some sort set up prior to them being able to be granted any other access to any other programs. So you've got to do things in order. You want to make sure you hire someone before you provide them with a desk. You don't want to order a laptop, for example, until you have someone hired to fill the position. You need a purchase authorization before you can even buy the laptop. So you've got to keep things in order. So for those of you who have not been using the task processing, this is an entirely configurable process for yourself, We do in the current configurations, especially with new sites, we do have some of these pre-configured. So when you go in here to new issue, you may see some examples in here of things like change request, onboarding, offboarding. Now, if they're not available to you, it may be hidden. But if you go ahead and select them, and I'm going to select new for new user, which is the one we've been picking on a little bit here, then this is a user onboarding. So in this case, the process down at the bottom goes ahead and gives us the ability to dynamically change the process according to the responses. Now, how do we do that? Just making, again, covering some of the basics. In the basics here, we're going and looking at an individual task. This happens to be a decision point. It happens to be a question. It has a response of yes. Add the group of tasks called employee new full-time. If you say no, then you're going to come down here and add employee part-time. There it is right there. They have, just like if you have a paper checklist, if you're hiring a part-time employee, they have a shorter list of things that need to be added as if they were a full-time employee. Part-time employee may not need a desk. Full-time employee does. Part-time employee might need a security badge. Full-time employee might need a security badge and a set of keys. So it's going to have a different set of onboarding lists according to your response. That way we can dynamically add that based off these yes, no, and NAs. Some other tasks may just be standard completion tasks. And when they're completion tasks, they're just like a standard step. You take a step and you say, okay, issue the laptop, provide the training, make sure they can get on the network. Make sure those 3 steps, they're just complete, do. The other part of this is down at the bottom that really gets important is the assignment area. Each task can be assigned to an individual user or an individual group. The individual user does not have to be an agent user. They can be assigned to any user in the system. So as long as they're a user in the Issuetrak, then you can go ahead and assign a task to them. So there are different ways that we set that up, but for the most part, all you have to do is give them the permission, can be assigned task, and then they can have a task assigned them, or be a member of a group that can be assigned task, because that will automatically give them that permission. So these things are important. The other thing is, by looking in here, what happens if I make a mistake? I've had that question answered many times. So I'm just going to go ahead and say yes to this one and yes to this one. So I'll come down here and just put a couple things in here. So now I'm going to say I made a mistake right here. I can edit this particular task and click edit right here and then uncheck completed. When I do that, it resets it back to an uncompleted state, as you saw on the refresh of the table right then and there. So many times people will make mistakes because these tasks can be pretty quick. They'll go down this list and don't read what they're all about or whatever it happens to be. Now, however, if you happen to have a task like this one with setting up the VPN access, you may have already added in a secondary task down here. To remove that, you just go to Task Manager, you find the task, and then hit delete. So it's a pretty simple thing to do. Another thing that happens, and I'm just see if I can find a quickly new submission in here, is I'll go in here and I've got so many of these that just start out with a process. I'm just going to throw this one at you. So in here, we've got a dispute. It has no process on it. So when we submit this issue, it has no process for it. Well, how can I come back and work with that? Well, if I need to add a process to any issue, and if I've already defined the process within our task functionality, then you can click on the Task Manager and you can click on Add Task Group. Then you can go in here, and I'm going to assign this to Agent A in Tier 2. So I'm going to do Task Assignment Group. This adds, and this goes to the group that's defined within that task functionality. It adds one task, and it's assigned to the agent, to the user, Agent A. And that Ellen is asking, she's saying non-agents can be assigned tasks, but not issues. That is correct. Issues can only be assigned directly to agent users. So thank you, Ellen, for that question.
And also the being assigned task is a permission driven option. So they're going to need the option to can be assigned tasks.
Yeah, I'm going to review that in just a second, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. But the idea here is this gives you a quick way of assigning issues to individual users. I use this a lot of times when I have multi-departments where I'll go ahead and want to be able to take an issue that's not going to be currently used as a quick pick and want to assign it to a different departmental user. I can go ahead and use this so it's very quick and easy to assign that particular issue to one or more users. Because remember, if I need to, I can come back in here and do the same thing again. I'm going to go to hardware. Now this issue is not only assigned to the owner issue, which is the assigned to your licensed agent user, it also has tasks assigned to agent A and agent B to review and respond to this particular issue. So in this particular case, there's really 3 people working on this issue. The person who's assigned to the issue as the owner, the person who is assigned under task A and assigned under task B. So many times we need to have A and B work the issue or give us opinions before the owner can close the issue, the assigned to. So it's a nice way to work the different issues. Now, as Patrick brought up, this is permission driven. So I want to go ahead and go into here and look at the entities and look at the users and take a look at the permissions. Now I'm going to do just a quick add here. And when I go to the add on the right, it has a standard set of user permissions. The ones controlling tasks are right here. It's 4 permissions. Can assign a task to another user who can be assigned tasks. Can view tasks and issues and can edit tasks and issues. Okay, let's kind of roll through them a little bit. If I am going to be able to assign a task or be assigned to a task, I had better well be able to view them. I don't necessarily have to be able to edit them. Now, that is not 100% true. Normally what you'll see a lot of times is they can be assigned and they can have view. So facilities manager might want to be assigned to things, they want to be able to view them, but they don't want to have the ability to edit, change, modify, or change assignment. Therefore, they don't have the edit permission. If you're going to assign it and edit it, then you better have view too. So you could have someone who could assign a task to someone, view the task after they're created, and be able to edit them, but not be able to be assigned to a task themselves. So it's different combinations according to what your usage is. And so you look at the permissions and you understand what the individual permissions are, and then you compile it. The main thing is if you can't see it, you can't work it. So that's why view is so important. However, in some cases, you may not want to give any of these permissions. There are certain situations, especially when you have an internal system where you're looking at internal issues, your submitters will submit issues, but they don't really want to know the processes. They don't need to see the values in the process. So therefore, all you need to do is don't give them can view. If they don't have can view, they can't see the task process itself. Now, we've talked a little bit now about how to go ahead and add information in. So let's talk a little bit about searching and reporting in tasks, which was one of the other things. I'm going to start with the big boy. Now, again, we looked at the hub, so let's look at the dashboard. So in the dashboard settings area, you do have available tasks by assignee, and you also have open tasks by assignee. So you both, again, have an available and an assigned look. And you can select either one of those panels. And you see here, the preview of the panel shows you this is the available task by assignee. So it shows you how many tasks are assigned to what users. All you have to do is add it to the left or right column, which I've now added it. And make sure you set this as my dashboard. So now I get a list down at the bottom, and I'll have to expand it, showing the bar chart of the issues that are assigned to different task personnel, and of course the list below. The next thing that comes up is being able to search. So let's go to the hub. And I'm going to look at the task assignee, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to take a look at everything that happens to be, actually, what was the other one? Update CRM. I don't have many of those. So what I want to do is search for any issue that has that. I'll go to the bottom here of the search page, and this is the standard search. And I'm going to go to the task section down here at the bottom. And I'll go ahead and I'll go CRM, and I'll just hit search. If I do that, it's going to go out and find any issue that has a task on it. If I can type it right. Task description assigned to. I may have found a bug.
Yep. Did you copy the subject of the issue or the task title?
Oh, that's a good point. I did the wrong one, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. So you want the
I'm going to do desktop needed. I got the wrong one. Patrick picked it up. See?
Yep.
The
That's
guru did it.
My support brain there.
So I'm going to go back down. I had picked the wrong field, which is easy to do on that look because it is so many. So here I go to task description, desktop needed, and do search. Now it gives me the list of all the issues that has that task on it. It shows me who they are assigned to and if they are completed. So let's get a little bit more complex. We're going to pick me. I'm going to hit back. And I'm going to still have desktop needed. And this time I'm going to search for Mike Wright. Make sure it locks. And now I do the same task list. And of course, now, I guess it didn't lock properly. I'm having a day, aren't I?
Oh.
Didn't lock. There we go.
There it goes.
See what happens when you don't, when you just copy paste things? Be careful. Make sure you get that blue bar showing you that the value has locked. If not, you're not going to get the correct information. So here you'll see only items that are desktop needed and they're assigned to me. So that's a quick and easy way to search for tasks if you want to just look at completed or anything like that. And of course, you can go in and you can save that as a saved search too, which Patrick is going to go over that a little bit later. But you are going to be limited on your output. Your output for the most part is going to be the task list whenever you select the task assignee or the task description. You can also look for things based off date completed, just like you can with issues. Now, another thing that you can do in here is use our report writer. So I'm going to go to reports here, and I'm going to show you a couple things that I want you to be a little bit careful about. I'm going to go to the queries here, and I've created a couple of queries. This one says issues and tasks available. When I run this, down at the bottom, it's going to give me 104 issues. I've added a few tasks to this site. 104 issues, keep that in mind. When I run this one, it says issues and tasks, and I click on run. Of course, it's going to give me a 491 because it's looking at every issue in here and the task. Also notice that these particular issues here don't have tasks. There's no task records in here because the issues/task is pulling issues primarily and then showing you tasks when they exist. So sometimes what you have to do is you have to come in and add additional filters to the query. So here I'm looking for task title not blank, and I run this and I get it down a little bit more, about 152. Because now I'm saying, okay, I'm eliminating any issue that does not have a task title in it. So you have to understand the data sets, both the task available, which is only looking for tasks that are available to be completed. So anything that's assigned to you would be left off the list. Issues and tasks will look for anything that is assigned to you, as well as anything that is available, as well as any issue that's out there that doesn't have tasks. Because there could be some that's out there like that. So you have to be very careful about your outputs. So when you're careful about your outputs, the idea is to look at your filters. So I'm going to edit this one and take a look at the filters. And you see this is pretty much standard. I'm using this for both of my examples. And here you see there's nothing in here but a time frame, because this is just available task. I'm looking at 2 years. But if I come back in here, and we're going to go back to the original area, here's the issues and tasks, and I do the edit. Here I'm looking at a little bit more of a filter. See, again, same filters. Submitted on the same, you saw how many different issues. For the most part, you would think the issues are going to be the same, but because of so many tasks that have been completed during that period of time and so many tasks have been added, then it doesn't show up on the available. So when I added a secondary filter in here, let me go back again. And I'll run this one. Again, this is the one that's 152. So we go back to the query. We'll take a look at it. And this one is filtered a little bit differently because it's adding additional filters. Here, I'm adding in additional filter expressions in order to limit it. For example, I am making sure I use the task title predefined and task title user defined is not blank. Why would I put 2 in there? Because there are 2 columns on our report output. The predefined is the ones that drop down. And then the task title is the one you manually enter. You can have both options on any one task record. Normally what happens on an output is it's going to show 1 and the other's blank, which means be consistent on your task selections. I like to use one value or the other. Normally I use user defined. I do not use the predefined. I find it has less overhead. The other thing is I'm looking at task completed is not blank. So I'm making sure these are available. However, I'm going to get some tasks that are going to be not completed and assigned, but not necessarily available. That's why there's a difference in the numbers in here. So you have to really kind of understand what you're looking for and how that data needs to be pulled. So again, when I hit save and run, you're going to see a difference in data. Now, fields in here that you notice that I have used. Title and predefined, again, showing both, and you see most of mine are showing. Here's a predefined. Here's one that does not have a user defined. Here's all the rest of them are all user defined. The task order is the dependency order, or the order the task that needs to be completed in. So therefore, you want to use that. So you want to be very careful about the fields that you use and get the ones that you need. If you export this directly to Excel, which I've done in certain situations to do reports, then make sure it opens up for you in the proper way and check your formatting. I wanted to do this because there's the thing about Excel formatting. A lot of people like to use it, and either Excel or CSV works really well. But when you do a file, save as, be mindful. The default up here is it wants to go to a web page. And I don't care if you go to browse to, and you go out and select it in here like this one for download, the default is going to be web page. So normally what I always do is I pick one of the Excel outputs or whatever one you want, but I want to get it out of web page because it affects how the data is presented. And sometimes it affects the columns themselves and how you can do calculations on them. So be very careful about that. This also occurs when you receive an Excel output from Issuetrak in any format using the schedule reports. I have to do this all the time with schedule reports. I download them and I resave them as a new file. Hit cancel on that. But that's just the way you do it. Works out pretty well with this. Once you get used to the data formats, it works out well because now you can create reports both for the report writer. So I can come in here and take a look at a report here and I'll say issue task not completed and I'll just run it and it can give you good information. Then once that is in here, then this report is available for you to, of course, export it, view it in full screen, however you want to look at it. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out, and this is something I'm still playing with a little bit, but many of you have asked me about timeframes between tasks, and it's very tricky. This is kind of the completed by report that I did, and I dumped this out to Excel. And you notice I've got a submitted on and a task completed on date, and then I've got a couple kind of spacing in here just to do it. There's not many functions in the Excel spreadsheets that can give you the differences between two of these type of fields because these are date time fields. And when you're looking at them, but the only thing you can really do with them is to come in here and do a straight type of format. So here I am just taking the task completed and subtracting the submitted time. Now you can go up a column like this one. So what I did is I actually looked at the task completed hours versus the task completed for the second one and kind of see what the difference is between the two to see how long it took between task one and task two. Now, because this is test data, it doesn't give you really good data elements. So it's a little bit tricky. The other thing I want to show you on this format, and I looked this up, is if you multiply this value times 24, it turns out into hours in decimals. So if you think about 0.25 or 0.5 or 0.75, you know it's either 15, 30, or 7 or 45 minutes. So you can always convert these over. The other value that's used in here is 1440. So you can come back in here and do the same type calculation and use 1440 for minutes, and this one's over here. This will convert this over to minutes. So that's why these numbers are so big. And you'll see a lot of this test data is really bad. But if you come down here where it's in, this is time to complete 1.11 hours or 66.3 minutes. You can see that it does convert pretty well. So this trick is a little bit, you have to kind of get the data, export it, save it to a new report, and then manipulate it afterwards in order to get good information. But if you've got other ways of doing this, if you've got better ways of doing it, but this is where you're having to compare two dates. Usually on this output, I am not using a format on the output of data. What I mean by on that is when I go to a report like this one, and let me go back to this one right here, and I go ahead and go to an edit. I'm going to go to the final formatting page. Anytime you're using a value like a time or date, then it's going to go ahead and give you a value in here. Well, I got the wrong one again, didn't I? And I get another edit in here, so I'm going to come back down. Then what I'll end up doing if I have a date time value in here, then I'm going to come in and remove the formatting altogether. Because the normal formatting in here is going to be a short date or a long date, and it's not going to give you a timestamp, and you kind of want visually to see that timestamp. So remove the formatting, and that's what gives you the output that I was showing you here that shows you both date and timestamp. It's the same format you get in the query. So if you don't want to create a report, you can just use the query output and it'll give you this automatically. Then you can visually check your data, like here in this, I want to check and see, well, this time and this time. Yeah, that's about right. It's almost 7 minutes between the two if you're looking at that comment, so you know that information is right. So that means that your information that you're doing throughout the report should be correct. So that's kind of task reporting, giving you options in order to do things. My best suggestion is go in there and get some of the data and see how you like it. There are different ways of doing these expressions. Those expressions can mean a lot to you when you're trying to build them. Things like looking for where completed on is blank. That would be a good one where you can look for all tasks that have not been completed, or where the response on those is not yes or no. It's a blank response. Those are ways of looking at non-completed tasks. I've done projects where I've looked at a bunch of tasks across a bunch of issues and want to look at all the items that are uncompleted in there. So I've done that also. So a lot of different ways of actually going through here and looking at the information. It just depends on what you need. And if you need help, reach out to the support team. Reach out to Patrick or myself. We'll be happy to help you at any time with any of the reports. Patrick has done more reports probably than anybody on the support team over the years. He's become the support guru, so I'm glad to have him on the PS side to help out. So I expect he's going to get more teams, but please help out on come to us if you have any questions or any needs for the reports. We'll do our best to give you what we can.